Today's podcast guest is Marco. He is the creator of Papa Macros. We're going to dive into his story of how he started the healthy meal prep business and the growth that he's experienced over the past few years.
So we actually met you when you were in, I guess, the earlier stages of your business. Did you say you started in 2020?
Yeah, October 2020 was when we officially
October
launched.
2020. So I think we might have just seen you in 2021, maybe the first part of the year.
Yeah, correct.
And so Marco actually dropped some meals off to our house. And I was like, oh, wow, tell me about your business and how you're going sort of thing. Because we had, I think, just exited around that time. And we were kind of saying, oh, look, we're I guess the peak of our business was kind of around that 2,000 to 2,500 mark. And I think your business was currently around the 1,500 mark.
Yeah, correct.
Now, we won't say exactly where it's gone to now, but if you live in Western Sydney, you've likely heard of it. So it's got a pretty decent footprint. Could you give us just, I guess, like a little bit of a storyline of, I guess, how you started and then, you know, the first jump into making it a really an official business and kind of where you are at now, and then we can kind of extract some different, I guess, lessons for the listeners out of that.
Yeah. So, when we met, that was early 2021. Still doing pretty much most of the things myself. So that's why I was delivering to you as well.
Very good.
Yeah.
Personalized service. I just thought I was special.
Yeah, that's right. All throughout 2018, 2019, just being into my own sort of health and fitness, would always meal prep for myself.
Yep.
And over time would meal prep for friends, colleagues, friends from the gym, doing it out of home.
Yep.
And went from doing it from 5 guys to 10 guys to 20 guys. And over the course of, that time, end up at a point doing about 40, 50 guys a week.
And so that's still from your home at that stage?
Maybe when it got to about 40 plus, I was doing it out of my parents' restaurant.
Oh, perfect.
But that only lasted about 2 or 3 months because me and my dad were just arguing every day about space and this and just dramas.
Yeah. Was your business growing and I guess theirs would have been more established, so it would have been staying a little bit more constant?
Yeah, well, the way I would do it, they just do a Sunday lunch service.
Right.
So I'd go in Sunday night with one chef and one person to help me package the 3 of us and do everything in a few hours.
Oh, wow.
And it was super basic. We only had 5 things on the menu. It was just for friends, really, so it wasn't really done properly.
But still, that 40, 50 guys at 10 meals each.
Yeah, it was about 10 meals a week.
Yeah, maybe, so that's what, is that 400 to 500 meals still? Like, that's pretty solid, bro.
Yeah, and that's no marketing, just all through call and text, no website, no Instagram.
Just some good food at a good price.
Yeah, that's it, exactly.
Awesome.
It was just the convenience of it. And then everyone kept telling me, you got to, advertise this, get it out to more people. So it wasn't until later in 2020, throughout that lockdown period, where I started looking at commercial kitchens to move into.
Yep.
And then I found a kitchen in Marrickville that was already fitted out, already set up, had all the equipment.
Wow.
And we just moved straight in. It was a very expensive lease.
Yes.
But I think I just took the risk, got everything legitimized, so made the website, got all the recipes, all the barcodes, everything done.
And so you were kind of more happy to take that level of risk because you did actually have some customers. You kind of knew there was some income coming in. So it wasn't like, I've got an idea, I'm going to jump into a commercial kitchen. It was almost like a side hustle that grew into a potential business. And then you were like, I'm willing to take the risk because I've got some sort of certainty with the amount of customers that you were already interacting with.
Yeah, that's right. So I didn't really feel like that. I didn't really feel that scared because I feel like everyone I'm talking to already wants the meal. So if I put the word out, more people are just going to want them eventually. So
perfect.
We just continuously grown and obviously done things to evolve and keep it growing along the way.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
And so you were saying that the first lease was quite expensive.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're willing to talk about numbers of just the rental cost, but I think that is sometimes like a really big sort of challenge for people when they see like $1,000 a week rent or something. They're just like, oh, this is real serious right now.
Yeah. Well, this is a 6-figure lease.
Wow.
Okay. So it wasn't a big space, but the benefit was I didn't have an upfront cost to fit it out.
Yes.
It was more so just the bond that was my biggest upfront cost.
Yep, that makes sense.
So everything else was there, which was a really good opportunity.
Yep.
I was lucky enough to sign a 1-year lease.
Yep, cool.
Yeah, so I wasn't really locked in for a long period of time.
Yep.
And then I had the option. So if it didn't work, I'm only in for a year. And if it does work, I can leave after a year and go to a bigger place, which is exactly what we did.
And so were you working somewhere at the same time as prepping your friends' meals and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I was a property valuer.
Oh, wow. There you go.
So yeah, I studied property at uni.
Okay, cool. Oh, okay, cool. So you were essentially turning away from a job, I assume that you resigned, not using a degree, like sort of delving into a decent level of uncertainty that might not have just come from, I guess, jumping out into business, but you are kind of taking a really different career, I guess, trajectory now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, completely different. Very different.
That's cool. And so how did it sort of feel the first few weeks in business? Because you're taking on, something in the ballpark of a $2,000 per week, just rental costs. I imagine you experienced all the other costs that came along with business insurance. And I don't know if you had like initial accounting fees, but you would have had to have a float to the business. And there's so many like costs that I guess a lot of people people don't see when they open up a business. How did it sort of feel in those first few weeks? Did you ever feel like, oh, maybe I've made the wrong decision here?
Yeah. Plenty of times like that. I still get times like that. Yeah. So, but yeah, things always go wrong. You always cop like unexpected costs or fees, and upgrading equipment or hiring a new staff, and you got another wage to pay. So yeah, things like that always happen. It's normal.
And so like for a rapid growing business, I think we actually discussed this in the Mighty Macro podcast. If you do want to scale the business, so often you have to reinvest the profits that you're making just in the hope of being able to turn over a large amount and eventually extract, I guess, profit out at some point. So we didn't see you rock up in a Lamborghini today. I assume that you're having to reinvest to see this sort of growth that's happening at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. So most of what comes in goes straight back into the business.
Yep.
We do spend a lot on marketing, trying to work with the right people as well to get the name out there, because I still feel like we are a small business.
Right.
I feel like in Sydney we're really well known.
Yep.
But the plan is to obviously get known in other states like Queensland, specifically Gold Coast, Brisbane,
Yep.
Melbourne, Canberra. So they're growing now. I do trips monthly to interstate to visit our stockists up there, because we've got a few in Melbourne, a few in Queensland.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that is quite like a big vision for the business that you've got, starting from, I guess, cooking a few meals for mates at home, then to your parents' restaurant, then to an initial lease. You're in a different warehouse now. But where did sort of like your projections for where this business could go change to be like, oh, I'm not just going to do like a few supplement stores or a few gyms, or try and reach 2,000 meals a week. I'm going to really try and go nationwide here. Did that was that always a possibility in your mind, or did it only become a possibility after you started putting real runs on the board and being like, oh, maybe this?
I don't think it was a problem to say. I never had a limitation in myself to how far I could go.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be, all over Australia.
Wow.
It's just more finding the right courier to get it there,
Yes.
or running the procedure in a way where we can get it delivered there overnight in a refrigerated vehicle. Because that's really all you need. It's not, it's not more as difficult as what you might think. Because people say, how do you get it to Queensland? It's a refrigerated truck overnight. It's there.
Yeah.
So it's pretty simple. You just got to find the right person or right company to do it for you.
I was saying to Marco before the podcast that the fact that he sees this as, I guess, like an easy thing to take on, it probably means that he's actually got quite a bit of natural talent. And so if you are finding the way that he's sort of approaching this a little bit foreign, it's because you obviously are a talented individual. We were kind of talking about sort of the lessons that you need to learn to operate businesses at different sizes. And you kind of said, well, you just do the next thing, right? You kind of see it as a normal sort of methodical approach. Like once this is done, then I do this. Once that's done, then I can do this.
Yeah.
Which is cool. It's good to see that like someone that is in business and growing well has sort of, I guess, that natural talent. Not that you have to be talented to do it, but I think it is cool to see people, I guess, in their environment doing their thing. And so having delivery vehicles, I think I've seen some Papa Macro vans on the road.
Yeah, so we have 3 of our own vans. Then we have contractors that deliver for us as well. And then the companies that do the interstate and regional deliveries.
Okay, cool. And so the vans, I assume that you had to purchase, or they're just contractors and I've got your signage on there?
Now, 3 are our own
Yep.
That we purchased. The rest are contractors, their own vehicles. They get paid a contracting fee to do the deliveries.
Cool.
We used to use only other courier companies. So I used to do it all myself. Then I started using a courier company.
Yep.
But then I found way too many issues. Boxes going missing, boxes getting damaged, things getting late, people getting deliveries at 8, 9 o'clock at night when it's meant to be before 5 p.m. latest. So then I made the decision to just do Sydney Metro all ourselves. We have complete control.
Yep.
And then obviously the regional interstate stuff we send off with another company.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so I guess you're kind of prioritizing the reliability
Correct.
of having some of your own vehicles for a portion of the business. And we were kind of just chatting beforehand. Even the suppliers that you use are sort of organic and they're, I guess, locally owned. And I was kind of like, yeah, but surely that's more expensive, right? And you were kind of saying, yes, but they've been extremely loyal, but also reliable. And with the fluctuations that sort of happen inside a meal business, because I guess like the variance can be greater than 10% of the orders coming in each week, which, if you're doing a few thousand meals theoretically, it could be 300, 400, 500 meals that is fluctuating every single week. And having sometimes that reliability can actually be more, I guess, valuable to a business than just simply the margins that are associated with it.
Yeah, that's right. It changed, like even the price of veg, it can change week to week. One week I'm paying this much for broccoli, next week I'm paying this much for broccoli. Same for every single ingredient that you're getting. And we're getting 50 to 60 ingredients a week.
Wow.
So every week we've got to look at the pricing, what we're getting charged, and then make the appropriate changes to the menu to time with the cost.
Do you feel like you can't check out of the business, like get I guess a bit of a break from it because
Never.
yeah, 'cause it is like I guess it's a labor intensive business like innately, but the amount of I guess direction that you're applying to the business also just requires a whole new level of I guess management and oversight. And so that can be like quite a toll, but you've pretty much, we were saying to us prior to the podcast that you've been growing month on month, pretty much every month for like 3 years. How does that feel? Like, because I think you might have taken a small holiday recently when we were connecting, but I imagine you haven't taken many holidays. How does it feel to be a part of a growing business month on month for 3 years straight?
Was that when I went to Queensland?
I think so. It was just a week or something though, right?
No, it was 3. I drove there, and that was for business. So yeah,
So it wasn't a holiday.
Yeah, so I drove to see all our stockists up there, and also again new stockists.
Wow.
So it was funny. I actually stayed on the beach in Burleigh, but I didn't see the beach at all because I'd leave before sunrise and get home at like 10 o'clock, and then I was just on the road the whole time I was there.
I was expecting you to upload some movie world pictures or something.
None of that. But yeah, look, obviously I've worked really hard, and I have never taken my foot off the brake to gain as much business as we can and to get that name known. Hence why we've had that growth.
Right.
I've never really, like, it's been 7 days, 7 nights for a very long time. So
Wow.
yeah.
And like obviously burnout is a massive like I guess talking point in business, but I've often found like when I'm extremely passionate about something, I don't really feel burnt out actually doing it because like I guess the passion kind of offsets it. It almost feels like it's fun, but obviously the stress that comes with it, but because you're enjoying the actual growth of the business, I didn't feel like I was getting burnout. It was only after the fact where I kind of actually took a rest, and then I was like, oh man, that really hit me. You haven't had a chance to take the rest yet, but are you experiencing any form of burnout, or how do you see, being 7 days, I guess, working per week for a long period of time?
Well, I feel like you get burnt out when you don't have a purpose in what you're doing. So I wouldn't be doing these hours for a boss or another business I didn't care about. But when you find your purpose and you find your passion for what you do, like I couldn't picture myself doing anything else. And I genuinely enjoy what I do.
Yeah,
it's a very, very rewarding thing as well. And your brand, your product is such a big part of so many people's lives.
Yes.
And when the feedback and how you help people, and then how people say, oh, I can't even live without your meals,
That's cool.
It's a great feeling. And it's all from the work you put into it. You can't buy that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess without getting too philosophical, we are in a time where people are really working huge amounts of hours, and you might literally be getting them time back with their family because they don't have to spend time cooking. But I guess on the other side of things, the amount of good, like wholesome food that's coming from like local farms and whatnot that are in our diets or as I guess as a society is, I guess, dwindling, or it has extremely decreased over time, and you are actually coming against that and giving people real food, saving them time. So it is quite a valuable thing that you're doing.
Yeah, correct. Well, the main benefit of getting pre-prepared meals is the convenience. But at the same time, with us, we provide a high quality product, and there's no processed ingredients in any of our food. It's all natural ingredients, which, if you go through a supermarket, most of what you see is, processed food.
100%. Yeah. And so I guess you've gone through the stage of moving from one warehouse to another. Did you kind of feel all those similar feelings again? So like from the restaurant, there was obviously a decent amount of risk that you're still taking on, and, potentially second guessing whether it was the right choice as soon as like the bills come in. Moving to this next warehouse space, could you kind of describe, I guess, the difference in warehouse spaces and maybe where you were at in the business? What gave you the confidence to make that sort of jump?
Yeah, so the first warehouse we in America was only 125 squares. So it wasn't big at all, but it was a very good fit out. Where we moved to 400 squares now in Wetherill Park, but we had to do the fit out. Right. So that was a big upfront cost.
Yeah.
So a lot of investment going into that to set it up correctly to make it functional for our procedure as well. So yeah, that was a big risk, but I feel like because we had grown in that first year, I could see the potential of what we could do, in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
So I didn't really, worry too much about not being able to pay the bills, but, obviously there's weeks you struggle, there's weeks cash flow aren't as good as others, but, you get through it.
Yeah, and so you obviously do need to maintain a relatively decent sized float to the business because you've got the natural fluctuations of the way that people order, but obviously the reinvestment into new vans or new equipment. I think you were mentioning that you actually have like backups of, ovens, backups of sealing machines.
Yeah, correct.
And so like to be able to have, I guess, the reliability by having those backups, you at some stage had to invest in that as well.
Yeah, correct.
I think that's something I've always struggled with. Like I've been very reactive in, I guess, creating backups within the business because I've always wanted to have like profit turning machines. I have wanted to extract profit out of the businesses. When you're in a scaling a business with the type of growth you're experiencing, it's just obviously not like a luxury that you can have right now because you've got a bigger vision for it. But how does it feel when you're creating some extra reliability through getting a second sealing machine, but it might cost you an extra $3,000, and it's like you don't need it now, but you might need it later? Like, how willing are you to just depart with those potential funds?
I feel like every month there's something we're reinvesting into. So the month that just passed, we actually did buy a fair bit of equipment. So new stove, new brat pan, to keep up with quantity. We've had a big growth over the past couple of months. So got to keep up with that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's...
So
I just don't see it as an obstacle. It's just something, it's a necessity that we have to do.
Yeah.
Because we can't risk, something breaks down and you don't have a backup where you can't give people their meals. You always need backups in place.
Yeah.
Same thing as having the agency staff.
That
So
makes
there's
sense.
backup people there.
So yeah, we were talking about that in the Mighty Macro podcast. There was a time where one of the big cooler room doors broke, and so T was essentially doing like a wall sit for 2 hours before someone could come out. And it was because the meat that was in the cool room had already been prepared. So it was like the labor cost that was associated with preparing the meat, the actual meat itself, which is the most expensive part, all the ingredients that had gone into it. But the biggest fear we had was if those customers never reorder again, the lifetime value that's associated with each customer may never come back. So it's like there could be $6,000 or $7,000 in materials that we're about to lose, but what's the value of the lifetime value of the customers that we're potentially about to lose? And I think if you're not in it, it's not like a thought pattern that you would have, but you know how expensive it is to acquire a customer, and so losing one can, I guess, outweigh the quantifiable costs that you can easily see sort of walking out the door. So that's a really good point. So you're building reliability in different ways. We've talked about your suppliers, we've talked about getting backup equipment, but you mentioned that you've got an agency that's hiring staff as well. So when we were obviously running a much smaller operation, we were trying to look for full-time staff because there was some sort of reliability in there. But the systems that you've implemented, you're actually getting reliability through an agency, but through casuals as well, just because you're actually adjusting for the fluctuations in your business.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. Yeah, things are unpredictable as well. So.
And so I guess you have a little less to do with the hiring because that is outsourcing to the agency. But I imagine you do have, I guess, an oversight of the full-timers that would be in there on a regular basis.
Yeah, correct. So the way the business is set up, there's three teams. So there's a head chef who runs all the cooking. So essentially raw food into cooked food.
Yeah.
Then there's a packing manager who worries about all the food going into containers. So all the recipes, each meal getting packed, which is the most time-consuming part of the business. We have 16 packers. So that is people putting food straight into containers and at the right weight. So they're with the scales, they're with the tubs or trays of each ingredient. Then there's the sealing team and labeling. Yeah. So they essentially seal the food after it's packed, label it correctly, and then at the end, after everything's done, we're putting the food in the customers' boxes and dispatching them out.
Wow.
So these are the sort of three teams. So there's packaging manager, production manager, and dispatch manager.
And so starting from where you did start, did you think that you would have a team system that was like going to be needed to run the operation that you're doing now? And if you did, that's amazing that you had that foresight. But when in the business did you really feel like I actually need these levels of structures? And were they your own implementation, or were you able to learn that sort of system from somewhere else?
Look, from the start, I always had a really good chef. My first chef was really good, and I never really had too much to, like, obviously I'd be in the kitchen cooking, but if I wasn't there, I know it'd get done.
Yeah.
I've been very lucky with the cooking staff I've had. Even now, Jim, who's our current head chef, he's the best. Even when he's super stressed out, things going on, he's always cracking jokes, smile on his face. It's a really good working environment. That's probably the thing I'm happiest about.
Yeah.
But I've always had a really good chef to look after the production. So that hat has sort of always been taken care of.
Yeah.
Whereas I was always looking after more so the packing and the dispatch, where over the past year and a half, I'd say the other two to come in has been more implemented. So then I can focus on, doing events or doing expos and sponsoring shows and, really focusing on growing the business as opposed to being stuck in the factory.
I think that the humbleness that you have is like quite refreshing as well, because I feel like I might know the size of the operation that you're running, and it is quite impressive. But the fact that you're willing to jump back in the kitchen when needed, I think is like a hallmark trait of successful entrepreneurs. They don't see it as necessarily taking a step back or doing, I guess, less important sort of work. The fact that they're happy to come back in the kitchen if needed, I think is like just a hallmark trait of really good operators.
Yeah, well, just about every Friday, I jump back into the cool room to seal, because while the sealing machine, we have 2 sealing machines going like during production, and I hate it when those stop, because if that stops, everything else sort of gets slowed down.
Right.
Because the food being packed is just a backlog, then nothing's getting labeled, nothing's getting sealed. So when that team goes on break, I always do it half go on break. I jump in, I'm sealing for that half an hour or the hour when they're on break, and then they come back, they go back in. So every week there's still a part that I'm in there.
Yeah.
And I'm still finalising all the orders. I'm still doing all the numbers. So
That's awesome. And so you don't have to answer this one, but obviously when a business grows and it becomes, I guess, a larger business, the key components that cause success in that business, like a really good chef, become even more important, because if that chef was to resign, go to a higher paying job or something like that, it could be like a really impactful part to the business. How have you, or what's your philosophy on essentially incentivizing the key sort of workers inside businesses? Do you simply do like salary increases? Is equity ever on the table? Again, not that you have to answer this, but how do you kind of feel about these key components in business, and what's your sort of philosophy on keeping those people, I guess, in the roles so that the business can keep growing at the sort of rate that it is?
I think number one is a good working environment. I'm really lucky we have really good staff. Everyone's got a positive attitude. There's no, at least not that I know of, there's no bickering or anyone doesn't like each other. So it's like a big family. Everyone really gets along really well.
Yeah.
I think Jim, he's a big part of that. He's the loudest one in the kitchen, not yelling, just cracking jokes. Bad jokes, like dad jokes.
Yeah. So he truly enjoys his job.
Yeah, he's amazing. And now he's got 2 other chefs that work alongside with him. And even if Jim's not there, it will be very stressful, but they both know what they're doing as well.
Right.
So there's not that level of it's all relying on one person.
That's cool.
And over time, look, there has been pay increases for a lot of the staff, because as they take on more responsibility, I tell everyone, even I've got a lot of young uni boys that work for me in the cool room. They do all the cold work, and as they take on more responsibility, they've all gone on pay rises every time they take initiative.
Yeah.
And I tell everyone that when they come in.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I think that's a massive difference. So when I did a decent amount of consulting in the Western Sydney space as a part of, like, I guess, a government scheme through a third party, we sat down with a lot of small business owners. And one of the things that I think came up quite frequently is the hesitancy to pay staff more. It was like, well, this is just a straight cost to the business. They're doing their job. How am I supposed to make money here type thing if I keep increasing my costs? I'm assuming that you probably share a similar philosophy. Of course, numbers have to be in check for the business to run, but you actually want to see these employees grow and incentivize them in that way, because you usually get disproportionate results out of people that you look after well. And it's in those disproportionate results that it's actually more profitable to pay your people well.
That's right, and it has to be the right people as well.
Of course.
Because 99% of the time I've given someone a pay rise or more responsibility, and they work harder. Or they even show up to work 10 minutes early just to organise and make sure everything's going to get done properly. Or I've had the other times where, probably the one off, where I've given someone a pay rise, and then every shift they late to work, want to leave early, take longer breaks. It's like, I've given you this pay rise, and now you're slacking off. You're meant to be doing more, not less.
I think we've had a chat about that in some of the other episodes, and it's like, the business owners, we're so aware of who is putting in effort, and you don't even need to be micromanaging to find that out. And it's just like, I think we probably share like a similar point of view. It's like, when you are like getting like disproportionate results from someone, you want to incentivize them, but the moment that you do that and then they go and take a step back, it's like, we see that, and it's almost just like, well, whatever like potential trajectory we had imagined for you, it may not be the same, because like as a business owner, we're trying to, like, I guess, make everything work in an optimal way. And so if we see that this person is not likely going to fit that puzzle that we're creating in our mind, then we just simply find a new piece that fits. And I think like so often it's like they don't know that they're doing that. And it's not like a single event where you go and change, I guess, your hopes for where an employee might go. But it certainly is, I think, something that we sort of do, I guess, as a part of the method of business. It's like you find the piece of the puzzle that fits best, and if it doesn't look like it's going to fit, well, you just need to replace it with another piece. It doesn't mean they're going to lose their job. It just means someone else might be on the trajectory that we had sort of hoped for them, which is, I think, like a super like important lesson for employees that want to be in a business for a long period of time. It's like the owner does see things.
Yeah. So Yeah, even if some guys in the factory, they come up with ideas to make the production smoother and better that I haven't even thought of. I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
like-
efficiencies in systems,
Yeah.
especially for something that size, is like amazing.
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to Adam. He drew a whole map of how to organize the cool room for when all the meals are sealed. So then when we're picking, it's a lot easier.
Wow.
So he worked out a formula of based on the orders of that week of how many we got ordered of each thing, where everything will fit perfectly. So he's worked out how many meals will fit on each shelf and on what shelf and that what the most common meals are. So put them closer to where we're picking from. Like he thought of it.
good.
He put. I think he went home, did homework on it, and created this formula to do it. So every week now we work off that formula.
What a champion.
Yeah, and that was in his own time. Just took the initiative, and I think in his mind he just wanted to make it easier for himself and everybody else. So.
But
Now
in-
it's a business. Yeah.
But in your mind, I assume he now holds a different place in your mind. Not that you thought less of
Yeah.
him or great, like
Yeah.
more of him, but like you just realized the talent. Like he made it sort of evident.
Yeah. And what was funny, but even this guy before he started working for us, he had a friend working for me, and he goes, "I have a friend that wants a job," and I'm like, "But he doesn't drive, he comes from a really strict family." I'm like, "Okay, like all right," and they made him out to be a bad, like not a good worker. Then this guy came to the best worker I've ever had.
That's awesome, man. And so you did share with us briefly, but not in depth, some of the challenges that you sort of had in business.
Yeah.
With so many moving parts in a business like food prep. Could you kind of give us maybe some stories to, I guess, make people understand what it takes to run a food prep business specifically, but I guess it is quite true of business in general.
Oh, there's been days where you just want to pull your hair out and give up, and just think, why did I even start in the first place? Probably the biggest day was our main. So we got 2 cool rooms and 2 freezers, but one cool room is for raw products, one cool room is for cooked products, obviously for food safety. But all of our cool room for all cooked products broke down.
The cooler room stopped working.
Yeah, it was a hot summer's day, and our motor on the roof, just older unit, couldn't keep up with the temperature. So instead of sitting at below 4 degrees, it was sitting closer to 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm watching this throughout the day, watching the temperature go up and up, and there's no room to go in the other cool room. And I'm making phone calls, getting technicians out. There's nothing we could do to fix it same day while all the food's in there. And thank God I'm nice to my neighbours, because we're in a commercial complex, and the complex right across the way is a cold storage facility.
Wow.
So thank
Chances of that.
yeah. So thank God I'll give them food all the time whenever we've got leftovers and stuff. So I'm always nice. So for about 4 hours, we're going back and forth with trolleys, taking all the food that's already sealed over there. Then we packed from their cool room on that Saturday. That was like everyone did a double shift that day. It was double the work. Yeah, that was pretty crazy, because I was like, in my head initially, how are we going to solve this problem? We don't have a cool room to pick out of. We can't let the food go hot. All this food, like tens of thousands of dollars worth of food, is going to go off. There's been plenty of situations like that. Even ovens breaking down, people not showing up for work. Back when COVID was a thing, half the stuff couldn't come because they needed to do a COVID test, or
Wow. Yeah.
or they live out of area, they can't come to work because it's not essential work. Like just
Spanners that just get thrown in that you almost like can't foresee happening.
Yeah, like every day there's an issue. And big or small, there's always something. And I feel like even this morning I was a bit late. I was putting out fires, just trying to sort things out at the factory. Yeah, chasing up deliveries and stuff as well. Things go missing.
Then we often say that's the actual real job of a lot of entrepreneurs. It's like actually a firefighter, just putting out fires whenever they come up.
Yeah. That's why I really just try to prioritize the most important things and not put a lot on my to-do list for the day. But even so many things pop up that day where I struggle to get everything done. Hence why I'm doing such big hours.
Yeah.
But I've always implemented the thing in my mind, probably hence why the growth we've had. I never say, someone's on my to-do list, I got to do it that day. I won't leave it till tomorrow, because then tomorrow becomes tomorrow, and you just get in this cycle where it never gets done.
Yeah.
So when you say you're going to do something today is the day you do it, and every day you don't do it is the day you're losing.
Yes.
So, it's an opportunity missed.
So T, are you feeling a little bit nostalgic listening to these stories, or nostalgic's not the right word?
Don't take me back.
And so did you want to quickly just touch on a similar sort of, I guess, what would you say, situation that we had with that cooler room? Just because not everyone would have listened to episode 2 maybe?
So the cool room door fell off the cool room.
Yeah. So a casual staff that we hired, I think it was like her first week, she walked in and the cool room door was like a little bit dodgy, but like it was holding on there.
Yeah, okay.
And I think it was 2 days before all the meals got dispatched out, and she pulled the whole door off so it wouldn't close. And the temperature's climbing, just like you. I'm looking at the temperature going, oh my days. So I had to push the cool room door onto the cool room and like all sit against it. Luckily, we knew a guy who could fix it.
Yeah.
So I'm there, but he said, hey, like, I'm not going to be there for like another 2 hours, but I can come. So I was just wall sitting against this cool room for like 2 hours. Don't take me back.
And then how did you get the temperature of the cooler room to stop going up?
Oh, so once the door was sealed, then the temperature was holding, but it wasn't going down. As you know, it needs to be like around that 4 or below. So we got family and friends to bring like bags of ice from local petrol stations, and we just jammed it in there. And then slowly the needle went down, and I'm like, success.
It's
That's
that
smart. That's smart.
Yeah, it's that problem solving that you just
But in my mind, while I'm holding the door, I'm like, I can't just let all this food go to waste. Like,
yeah.
that's not an option.
Exactly.
You need to think of an option that will like save it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And so I think one of the differences between like just like your business owners versus actual entrepreneurs, I think is implementing systems, which is something that is clearly like apparent in your business. But I think it's like probably their appetite for risk as well. And then I think their ability to solve problems. And so I think like solving problems in unique ways is something that I think you grow in as a skill, but I think it's something that you probably start with as well. And it maybe is one of the reasons that you don't see some of the challenges that you're experiencing in the same way as other people.
Yeah, well, I don't think I've ever started this to become a millionaire out of, to be honest. I've never had the goal just to, this is going to make me rich. I just did it because it kind of happened and I enjoy it, and it's just grown and evolved since. And like you said before about driving a Lamborghini, I don't think I ever drive a supercar. My dream car is a Toyota Hilux. So.
You are from the area.
yeah. So, I drive a Hiace now, so I'm on off.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I've never thought about, going crazy to profit all this money from it. That's why a lot along the way we just put straight back into the business and, provide the best product, that we can.
But it would be a decked out Hilux.
I don't know.
No, just a stock standard one.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big car guy.
Easily kept happy.
Yeah, I love my Hiace, the van. My missus complains because she can't get into it because it's a bit tall. But I love it. It's so practical. I can fit anything in the back. If I've got to take meals with someone, it's refrigerated.
It's a business car.
It
business
is a true business car.
I don't have kids yet, so I don't have to worry about baby seats in the back.
Very cool. And so your girlfriend that you said has been your girlfriend for about a year and a half now.
Yeah.
But the business has been running for about 3 years.
Yeah.
And so she's mostly been around for, I guess, the growth or the rapid growth part of the business.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And how are you finding it, maintaining a relationship with a business that's growing quite rapidly?
Oh, it's definitely tough. We don't have a normal relationship, I'll say that much. I can probably count on my hand how many times we've gone out for dinner.
Wow.
Yeah, but look, she's amazing. She already works very hard for her own business. She's always helped me out with my stuff from day one. Hence, she's a graphic designer and does marketing, so she kind of takes care of that.
Perfect fit.
Yeah, perfect fit, exactly. And we were friends for a long time before we started dating, so we already understood each other.
Yeah.
Which is good. So
She knew what she was getting into.
kind of, yeah.
And so she's obviously been able to like help out during your business as well. But you mentioned prior to the podcast that she actually has a business as well.
Yeah, correct. So she does teeth whitening, which she already did as a side hustle. And she's been doing it actually for 5 years, so a very long time.
Wow.
But it's predominantly weekend work and night work. So she was always able to maintain a full-time job as well as working nights and weekends. So she, like myself, she's always worked, ridiculous hours.
Yeah.
But then it got to a point where she was getting a lot of daytime clients. And she was saying no because she had a full-time job. So I said, why don't you you're already doing work for me already, just quit your full-time job, come on part-time with Papa Macros. She doesn't have set hours. Lucky she has flexibility. So if she has a client, don't come in that morning, go to your client. And then when you're free, you come to work. So
yeah, it's awesome like being able to, I guess, have a partner that also understands business because often it requires like unique things from you. And I guess when you've got someone that's understanding that way, it definitely is helpful. What was her business name? Just so, not to take your thunder away.
No, Crystal Clear Smile.
Crystal Clear
Her name's
Smile.
Crystal. So.
And her name is Crystal.
Yeah.
There you go. Beautiful. Was there anything that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, so my brain is like ticking, and I know that probably the listeners are thinking about this as well. What was, I guess, one of the most pivotal, I guess, like marketing or business decisions that you made that you saw the main growth from? Is there anything that stood out, or is it more just like a snowball effect of everything working together?
It's definitely a snowball effect. The way I see our marketing, I don't see it as doing one thing is going to be a boom or like make a bomb in the ocean, if that makes sense. The way I see it is if like I'm a farmer, I'm planting seeds everywhere. So I'm always planting seeds to get the name known and get people to order. Some seeds will grow into plants, which is good customers. Some seeds will just die. So it's always been doing as much as we can, planting as many seeds as we can to get the name out there. I have noticed that the biggest thing after all the marketing that we do, word of mouth is still the biggest marketing factor by far. 100%. So we have a refer a friend program, which works amazing. And then obviously you have to have a good product for people to be telling their friends that this product is good. So that's why, having a quality product people are going to recommend is number one for marketing, and then encourage them to refer a friend and they get a benefit as well. That's the best thing as well. Wow. So for every new customer we get, 80% of new customers will reorder. And then we have customers that have ordered for 2 years straight, never missed a week. So yeah, our client retention is really high.
There's a saying in the marketing space, you only sell because you can't market, and you only market because your product's not good. And it does kind of bring it back to one of those fundamental things in business. If you don't have a good product, you don't end up where you are.
Exactly.
If you're growing things organically, you can certainly have a huge marketing spend to fluff up a product that probably doesn't deserve the hype that it's getting. But if you want to be sustainable over the years, you have to have a good product.
Yeah, well, with this side of business, you don't want people to order once. You want people to order repeatedly. You're not selling, a TV that they're going to keep for 5 years.
Exactly.
You're selling a product they want to buy next week and the week after and the week after. So it has to be a good product. That's the main thing.
And so I'm a subscriber to Papa Macros.
Same. I get your texts.
Oh, you get the text,
Yeah.
the emails as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, what was I going to ask about that? From the emails. Oh, yes, you often drop new menu items, and way more frequently than what we introduce new menu items. Could you give us an insight to why you do that?
So one thing I realized when I was meal prepping, you get sick, or everyone gets sick of eating the same thing over and over again. So by updating the menu every month, the variety in a way is infinite. It's never ending. So we don't change the whole menu. So 90% of the menu will stay the same, but 10% will be new.
Yeah.
That way people will be incentivized. Oh, let's try that new thing. Let's try that order again so we can try that. So, and people love it, regular customers. That's why we've had people ordering for over a year, 2 years straight, because they're just continuously getting the new things that are coming out and they're loving the new variety.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And is that partly coming from the fact that you've got a really good chef that I guess wants to be doing new things?
Yeah, it's a team effort. Like we come up with recipes together as well as our nutritionist.
Yep.
So yeah, it is a team effort. We all sort of had different ideas. So our chef is more so cost and flavor and similar to things we're doing now to keep the production as productive. Whereas my ideas are a bit more, extravagant, and I want to do fancy things sometimes.
So I didn't actually know that was a part of a chef's role. When I was dealing with a local business owner, they do costings for the meals as well. I had no idea that was dedicated to them.
Yeah, look, to be fair, we with my previous chef, Ivan, he did a lot of the costing, and we've developed a sheet that automatically works out all the costing.
Right.
So that's already done. So our current head chef, Jim's been with us for 1.5 years now, doesn't have to worry about that.
Right.
So every time we do a new recipe, I just have a experiencing Excel sheet that works out for us instantaneously. So I'm sort of looking at that.
Yep.
The only thing he looks at is when goods come in. Oh, that's gone up. Oh, that's gone down.
And kind of notifies you.
Yeah. But
You're already across it anyway.
Try to be. Yeah.
That's cool. And so this little section is referred to as choice architecture. So we had a much smaller menu, but say there was 12, 15 items? 15 items. We would make something like 80% of them chicken and fish and whatever protein source that wasn't beef, something else.
It was like tofu, fish. I think that's it.
I think that's mostly
tofu, fish, chicken, and then we had like our beef and our mince.
And so we decided to make 80% of the menu from those options and 20% coming from the beef option because we had a flat rate pricing. And so when you create a blended margin, we can kind of, I guess, forecast quite easily as to what your profits are likely going to be. But the reason we set the menu up that way is because we knew with a relatively high level of certainty that you were going to have this level of profitability as opposed to the next. I think that might be okay for a sort of a smaller operation, but I've noticed that you've actually got different pricings for each menu item when we go onto your website.
Yeah, correct. So obviously we know what each meal costs us to produce, so the price is relevant to what it cost us.
Yes.
But the breakdown of the menu, like you said, how 80% was chicken or seafood, it's similar to us as well, but it's also by people's preferences. So there's 76 options on the menu now. I know there's definitely 7 seafood options, 6 breakfast options, maybe 10 vegan, and the rest is a combination of poultry and meat, so chicken and meat.
Yeah.
Chicken is definitely about 60-70% of the menu, and the rest is meat, purely because like a cost.
Yeah.
And it's also people preferences. Most people actually prefer
To eat chicken regularly.
regularly, correct? Where you can't have meat, lunch and dinner, but you can have chicken lunch and dinner.
And I mean, like just from memory, I think there's quite a bit more variety that you can use chicken in terms of the menu options.
Yeah, correct. Like the combinations we do with the chicken, we do some really creative stuff, which is really good. So,
But yeah, it's interesting. So I think they refer to that as choice architecture when you're actually deciding how a menu looks based off some of the back end sort of, I guess, requirements, like whether that's like supplier issues or just costings or in this, I guess in this situation, it could actually be consumer behavior. Like the need for variety outweighs, I guess, the need for consistency. Obviously, you keep some of those menu items consistent because they've got a following, but the actual need for variety is, I guess, in such a high level that if you didn't have that, you would actually experience quite a fluctuation in probably the lifetime value of a customer as well.
yeah, that's
Like
right.
how long they stay just because they don't have enough variety.
Exactly, yeah. And a lot of new customers come on board and say, "Oh, I didn't know what to pick." Like they'll call up or it's an email through saying, "I didn't even know what to pick. There's so many options. I just want to lose weight or just want to put on size." And that's why we have the preset meal plans. So we make it really simple. We say, "Look, there's a 10 mil pack, a 15 mil pack, a 20 mil pack. It's this many calories. Get that for your first order, and then you'll see which meals you prefer, which ones you don't. And then on your second order, you'll sort of have an understanding of the portion size, how the meals actually taste and make you feel. So go from there." So I've really tried to make it simple for new people coming in, and then have the variety over there for people to understand the whole menu and everything.
That's awesome, man. And so is there any sort of like one moment in your business that I guess you could kind of identify as when you knew that it was going to be a successful business? Because obviously moving into each new location, there's some risk attached to it. You're obviously confident about what you're doing, but was there a turning point where you were like, oh, like I've got this?
Well, I still don't even classify the business as successful.
We'll do it for you. Definitely successful.
Still always bills to pay and things to catch up on. So yeah, look,
I guess seeing yourself as
there's always a goal ahead.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Seeing yourself as successful is relevant to the goal that you're trying to achieve.
yeah, correct. But I think having a record-breaking week is always the main thing. Like last week was our biggest week by far.
Wow.
Which is really good. But then
That's
again,
awesome.
like I didn't really feel the hype of it because there's so much other
You're working.
shit going on just to keep up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's been moments where maybe when we first hit 100 orders, and we first hit 200 orders, and we first hit 300 orders, like it's
Some of those round numbers.
some of those round numbers are like shit. Like I remember imagining in my head we'll hit that many orders. This would be amazing. So yeah,
It's cool. And I guess you just keep readjusting the goal as you hit those milestones.
correct, because it's like everyone always says, there's no point of having a goal if you're not enjoying the journey, because you'll get to the goal and probably not be satisfied. And it's very true. So I remember thinking, yeah, imagine when I get to 300 orders, and yeah, I'll be, the business will be mad. Then, we passed that a while ago, and I remember passing, I was like, okay, like
What's the next
now
one?
it's 400, now it's 500. So it's always like,
And I think
Going
when
on,
you
going
aren't
on.
extracting out sort of profit to pay for the new Louis V belt or, the new luxury car, quite often it really is like that. You just set a new milestone based on what you believe your potential might be. Like I guess you're resetting like the vision at small increments just
Yeah.
because like if you're not trying to like bring out profit just to increase personal sort of like lifestyle, when you hit those milestones, there isn't that sort of materialistic feedback that so many people get into business for. And it's like sometimes the reason that you're not hitting those milestones in business is because you've chosen to get an immediate feedback through materialism earlier on. And I like looking from the outside, I think that's been one of the key things for you, man. Just being able to reinvest and not have an increase in lifestyle just simply because the business is doing well. Like I honestly think that's such a driver for growth.
yeah, well, as long as I can afford to pay my mortgage, I'm happy. That's it. So
It's so amazing that some of the like what we definitely think you're successful, but some of the most successful people have such sort of humble lifestyles, which really gives them the ability and even I would say the probability of like succeeding, which is it's cool to see, man.
yeah, well, actually, the one thing I would want to spend money on and would want to set a goal is probably just be able to go on holiday and not stress. So at least have 4 or 5 days where I can go away and relax and not worry, be so invested with the business. That's probably my next goal, having the business completely self-managed, so I don't have to have a stress.
And have you chosen, I guess, a level of volume that you want in terms of meals coming in per week that you want to set yourself for a little while? I guess, bring all the systems up to scratch, get really efficient at this level again, and also be able to have a holiday at that stage? Have you actually identified a number in your mind, or you're just kind of looking for a break?
Yeah, well, I think it's like three. No, I'm not necessarily looking for a break, but right now we have the three managers who all look after their departments, but then I'm the one that puts the pieces together.
Right.
So it might be getting that next stage where we can have that manager that replaces what I do in that sense and puts all those pieces together.
And so from the start, you're the one cooking the meals, and now you're playing quite a different role in the business. I think it's also cool that you, as we said, you're happy to jump back in there. But how have you found like your daily activities changing to deal with, I guess, the various issues that come with growth? Like what does it look like that you're doing now as opposed to when you started?
Well, I feel like there's two sides to growth. One is, obviously maintaining the current business you have. Otherwise, whatever growth you have, you won't feel it because, the same amount's coming on is dropping off. So I do spend a lot of time on the road, not necessarily delivering, but visiting our stockists and visiting new stockists, keeping that relationship in touch. And there's also times where there's problems with customers' orders and I'll go out and redeliver it myself. So I dedicate 2 days a week on the road.
Wow.
And while I'm going to those areas, I'll go visit a stockist who I haven't visited in a while. Like, for example, last week, I never head out to North Sydney or Manly or Northern Beaches way. We had a customer issue there, it happens when a wrong order goes out. Redelivered it, and while I was out there, I visited the World Gym at Northern Beaches, who we stock. So just to keep
Maintaining
that
relationships.
Yeah, so
hugely important.
I try to contact all our stockists as often as we can, and I'm very generous with our stockists as well. If they've been stocking us for over a year, and they say, oh, the mills are having a dip, like the past couple of weeks, we might reduce our order, we might give it a break for a month. I'll offer to stock them a week or two free of charge. I'll go even into that gym if it's a gym and do free sampling to get the momentum going back and just bring new menu items, because these members have probably been having the same thing over and over again, never looked to try anything new. All they need is to try one thing new, and those numbers will go back up again. If that means that stockers will come back on board for another year, that's it's paid itself off.
Yeah, I think that's a really good mindset around that. And there's just such a difference between people that have growth mindsets in business versus those that I guess happy staying where they're at, because to give like free meals out, it's a straight cost out of your pocket.
Exactly, yeah.
But it's because you value something greater than just the, I guess, immediate amount of profit you may retain.
Yeah, we've implemented it in our business. So we always make a percentage of what we sell as extra. So for example, if we sell 100 lasagnas, we're going to make 5% extra, which we can also fulfill late orders, fulfill mistakes, and then use that to remarket and, reinvest. So that'll be, some of them will go to mistaken orders, some will go to promotions, some will be used for sales repping to drop off meals to new businesses we're going to jump on board. We do a lot for charity as well. So end of the week, we always donate to Helping Hands up here at Richmond.
That's excellent.
A few church groups, food bank. So every week we're doing stuff like that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I know like reciprocity isn't a like quantifiable thing in most times, but I honestly do feel like the people that are looking to give back into their communities, not just for what's going to be returned to them, but I really do feel that's a major part of like, I think people that do business well, like those sort of things that you're doing, I think are extremely important. I know you will probably want to, bring down the level of importance it seems like. I know internally to you it probably holds a high level of importance, but I think more business owners need to have that perspective, because I think what it does for the business and actual numbers I think is amazing, but I think what it does for business sustainability is huge.
Yeah, well, I think we're able to do it, so we just do it. It hasn't really been like... Because I feel like if we cook exactly the exact amount, if we drop a tray or one gets broken or pieced or whatever, then we're stuck. That customer's going to be short of meals. And then having the extra, we're allowed to do things like that as well.
But I guess it's a practical, solution to, how your business is running. But I think there's also like a part where you are still handing over essentially dollars, which is pretty amazing. Like it's a good thing.
But the world goes round. Everything you give comes back in a way. So yeah,
that's awesome, man. Was there anything else that you wanted to add in, T?
Yes, my marketer's brain is going to. You don't have to answer this, so that's I might cut this out if you don't want to answer it. But being a social media marketer, I'm always interested to know what avenues of marketing online businesses have. How many types of marketing, you can include email and text, you have for customers that's retaining and trying to get new customers online as well.
So email and text marketing, I've always really tried to grow our database. So when we do free sampling, we're always getting people's details to go on the email and text list. Obviously, all new customers go onto that as well. So that's a big thing, having a big database to, let them know that we have new meal items and new stuff that we're offering. Social media marketing for paid ads, I think the budget is still pretty much the same as when I first started. I've never felt a need to increase it.
Wow.
Because I feel like you're just competing with all the big guys. It's not as effective as what it used to be, maybe back in early Facebook and Instagram days.
I think we probably got a decent amount of growth off that, but I can definitely understand how that would have changed.
Yeah, I think Google Ads is a lot more effective for us because people already understand the brand or Google searching for us, so they're more, it's more of a target. But number one is in-person, face-to-face events and working with the right people, working with, if it's going to be influencers or celebrities, working with the right people. So that's we've had a few really big names, give us shout outs or accept our meals. So yeah.
Still word of mouth on the ground stuff. And so I guess to even give more of an insight to that. So as much as we used our first supplement store as the platform to sort of launch our meals from, that word of mouth really continued in that area in a relatively big way. And so as much as we were doing some wholesale stuff with some gyms and some of our own stores, but other stores, they might have 10 pickups or 10 customers that come to pick up at a location. But that Blacktown store was getting 50, 60 pickups from the one location. And
yeah, wow. Why do you think that was?
I think it's word of mouth, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
So there is probably two things. And I think the second thing probably equates for 20% of the reason that we had that many. The first one is absolutely just word of mouth with customers. Mm-hmm. The second one is we did have another company dropping off, Muscle Chef dropping off orders there. And I don't know, they're too big to care about me.
You can say it.
We would be giving the flyer of our business to
Okay. Fair enough.
the ones that say, hey, you might like those meals, but you're definitely going to like these. But I guess, that's a retail space, right? Like there's always the potential chance that people will cross over.
Yep.
What percentage of your business would be wholesale meals compared to direct to consumer?
Between 10 to 15% is wholesale. The rest is direct to consumer.
Wow. So that's actually a massive percentage that goes direct to consumer. So would I be right in saying for a similar reason that we kept wholesale a smaller side, apart from it just being less profitable transactions, it's more so for the footprint that you're creating in the area?
Yeah, well, I find a direct correlation with how many wholesalers you have to how many customers come on board because each wholesaler location is going to let more people know about it, more people talk about it, more people order it. So I don't limit to how many wholesalers we have. We're always trying to get more on board.
It's almost like a marketing opportunity because the margin that you make off a wholesaler is so small, but it's the potential that they could come back as a direct-to-consumer customer.
Yeah, so I found even the trip I did recently to Gold Coast, we picked up a few more wholesale locations and the orders have been flying in.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and it's directly from the areas that we have stockists in.
I think that though knowing why you're taking on particular business ventures or particular tactics is really important. So I think for some of the business owners listening, it may be easier to get a wholesaler on board and you might be like, oh, well, they're giving me 100, meals per week potentially. But the profit that's associated with that can often mean that it's like two customers paying full price.
Yeah. So we don't look at the wholesalers to make a huge profit off. It's more about the footprint, like you said.
Yeah, knowing why you're doing something is so important in business because otherwise we know of people that have really focused on wholesale thinking that was the best way to grow, the profitability of a business. And it's that's only a result if they come back to your website. So it's you got to make sure that part's in check.
Yeah, that's right. That's why we have the branding on the packaging and everything else like that as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so is there anything in the upcoming, you're already trying to take on growing the brand to a national stage, but is there anything that you wanted to tell anyone that I guess is going to be new to the business or add any comments? Maybe you can score some browning points with the girlfriend.
I already gave her a shout.
Enough of a shout.
We are doing a huge menu update for August. So we're looking at implementing more treats, protein balls, cookies, snacks.
Amazing.
We've always had the option there, but it's just been there for an option, not really something of great benefit. So we're looking at changing that.
Yep.
So we're doing a photo shoot next Wednesday night with all the new stuff.
Amazing.
And then also huge menu change. So a lot of unique things coming on.
Yep.
Because the past few months have been a rotation of, the OG stuff, the original stuff coming back. But we're going to do a lot of never before seen meals.
Yep.
And we've also just launched custom meals as well.
Oh, wow.
So for a lot of athletes, we do customized meals.
That's a big thing, bro.
Yeah. So so we're looking after, I don't know if you know Aaron Pilates.
Yes.
We're looking after Aaron with his meals and he's a great ambassador for us. And we just got on Jaden Het, who's a WBFF pro. He's presenting this Saturday actually. So yeah, look, helping them out with their meals and using them as a promotion for the customized meals.
I noticed Lee Priest jumped on board as well.
Yeah, Lee Priest has been on with us for about a year.
That's
yeah,
cool.
But he's not competing, so he just gets what's on the menu. He gets what he likes. So we don't customize his one. But yeah, he's good. He was with us at the expo. But yeah, I was actually very lucky enough to meet him because I used to work at a gym a long time ago, Crunch Bankstown.
Wow.
And when I used to train there was this massive guy. He's a boxer now, and he does a bit of acting as well. And I was always friends with him, always nice to him. The guy's in his 30s, so at the time was double my age. And I saw he was on a film set with Lee Priest. And I messaged him saying, hey, man, do you think Lee would want to try my meals? And he just sent me his number. He goes, yeah, here's his number, call him.
Man, guy.
Yeah.
It's having the guts to ask those sort of questions.
Yeah,
though, right?
yeah.
Like,
And I think just because I was always so nice to this guy who was a member at that gym, then he probably just told Lee, yeah, like,
give the kid a chance.
oh, whatever he said.
Yeah.
So yeah, and Lee was like, yeah, I'll try him. And I'm pretty sure off the bat, he said to me, if I don't like him, don't bother. But if I like him, keep sending him.
Yeah, he's pretty a straight shooter, eh?
yeah. He's got no filter. He would just say what he wants, which is the best. That's why people value
Perfect.
what he says because they know he's not
BSing, yeah.
yeah, he's not bullshitting exactly. So yeah, and he's loved the meals ever since. We always send him meals, and yeah,
That's
he's
awesome.
been great. Yeah, he's got a loyal fan base.
And so you have got some of those influencers playing a decent part in the business now. But I feel like the reason that probably works most is because you have got that sort of footprint inside petrol stations now.
I did have all the meals in the Urbanista stations and a few IGAs, but I did pull them out of all those locations.
Oh, okay.
2 reasons. One, they wanted them too cheap and it was just not worth running the loss.
Yep.
And the main reason was I had supplement stores or gyms in those areas who I really want to target, who are there. And I had them saying, why are you stocking the person next door and me? You know, I'm not going to stock you then. So, you know what, may as well be, it's right to be loyal to who's been supporting me for longer and who's more of a target to
Your actual end
what
consumers.
what we sell. I was telling you this the other day as well.
Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah, so it was worth biting the bullet, pulling that out. But long term, you're going to see a greater benefit because service stations and IGAs, whoever comes in cheaper next, they're just going to flog you off.
Yeah.
And most people there don't really understand the value of what we provide. I don't think.
Yeah. Who's spreading the message about your brand?
Correct. Yeah, exactly. And you're competing with the big companies who just pump preservatives and artificial sweeteners in all their meals.
true.
So
Yeah.
that's why we try to keep everything
I guess in
natural,
comparison, it
fresh.
might not taste as good, but it's just like, yeah, there's a reason for that.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not a good one.
yeah.
But I guess, yeah, so not so much the petrol stations, but you've got a bigger wholesale footprint now, and that allows you to actually take the benefit from some of the bigger influencers because sometimes you can have big influencers on board, but there's no translation to that sort of localized level where they can actually purchase.
Yeah, correct. So we try to have in every council area, there's a place where you can pick up meals, or we have a pickup point where you can get your meals delivered to that place and pick them up from there if you don't want to get them delivered to home.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so I know you said that you're going to bring in some sweets and treats and protein-based, I guess, goodies. Would you like, I guess, any potential suppliers that are listening to potentially hit you up and taste test some more potential options, or is this all in-house?
No, we're going to produce everything ourselves.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So we're going to make it part of our production.
Yep, so that's a no.
Yeah,
Don't contact him.
No, we're going to do it ourselves. That way we can guarantee, what we put in them.
Yep.
And do it in a way that's, sort of on the higher end of quality. So we probably won't be the cheapest options, but,
You will have that context for what the customer really wants.
Yeah, that's right.
Sometimes it's like it's a protein treat with 2 grams of protein. It's like, no, that's just a treat.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Awesome, man. We really appreciate the time that you've spent with us coming on.
Wait.
Wait. Oh, okay.
I'm on the website. I want to ask you.
She does this. She spends the money like with the people that are sitting in the chair all the time.
Well, when we had you planned to come on the podcast, I was going da 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 da. Out of the current meals, so it's July 2023 that we're recording this.
Yep.
Out of the current meals, what are Marco's top 3? Top 3 meals.
So funny enough, I'm actually I'm following a diet plan at the moment, which is kind of keto. So I'm hitting up all the low carb meals. So beef ragu and barbecue chicken low carb, I'm pretty much having every day. But personal favorites, if I wasn't dieting, grilled chicken and fries, chicken parmigiana, and beef lasagna.
Did you say fries?
Yeah.
They're potato fries, but they're not. Don't expect Macca's fries, but baked potatoes.
Jeez, maybe there's the healthy meal options I could deal with.
The one that I've been eyeing off is the Mongolian beef.
Yeah, that's good too.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's very good.
It looks very good.
Actually, I've been having that, just not having the rice.
Very good. I'm going to
Customized.
really look at this.
Yeah, but best sellers would be butter chicken, beef mint chili con carne, and the prawn spaghetti.
That's so funny because those were our 2 best sellers as
there-
well.
yeah,
Chili
yeah,
con
yeah.
carne and barbecue chicken.
I think because it's familiarity. Yeah, I think that's the main reason. But I've had them so many times, I'm sick of them. That's why I'm having the new stuff.
Yeah, people feel like it's lower risk because they've like experienced it before.
Yeah, people always say it's so good. You update the menu every month. I'm like, I don't do it for you. I do it for me. I need new stuff to eat.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Was there anything else you wanted to add to?
That's it.
That's it.
Oh, wait. When do you need to order by?
So it's a week-to-week schedule. So order by Thursday 10 p.m. and you can pick a Sunday or Monday delivery.
Amazing. Awesome. Thanks heaps for that, bro. I'm hoping we connect again later in the future. I'm sure by that time we will see you not just nationally, but I reckon internationally. We can get those meals over to New Zealand. No problem. Awesome. Appreciate it, bro.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Cut. That was good.